Good evening. My name is David, and I will be working with you all doing a meditation. I'm working with the principle of grace. And so before I get into it, I just wanted to just offer up this particular understanding of grace. I know we all come in with the different understandings, but the one that I tend to work with is this understanding of grace as space, the space that we give ourselves and by extension each other to be our full selves and all of what that brings. And so if you could and feel comfortable, I ask you to get yourself situated in your seats. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or lower your gaze. And just allow yourself to come into alignment with everyone on this call, both in this space and everyone that will come after. And I want you to give your full attention and awareness to the room that you're in. And as you give your attention to the room that you're in, I want you to be conscious of your breath. This inward and outward movement of air, this rising and falling of shoulders, this expanding of chest, contracting of chest. And so this idea of grace, we can pull in grace and think of the relationship that we have to the all, whatever you call that thing. And grace is this unearned gift. And so in working with the breath, I want you to think of and give attention to the space between each of your breaths. Just notice the space in between. Notice the space in between each of your breaths. Notice the pregnant pauses in between each of my words and these sentences. Notice how all things are made up of that space. That space that's not empty. There's a saying that says, there is no spot where God is not. So in between each of those breaths, in between my words, in between your heartbeat, the sounds outside your window, know that that space is God. The generating, the organizing, the delivering intelligence that governs all things. The creative force of life that has no beginning and no end. God is space. God is that gift that you don't earn, that you don't have to work for, that you don't have to prove anything to. As we began this call, someone was talking about air. How often do you think about the gift of just pulling in breath? How often do you think about the gift of the breath? That every in and out is a thank you to the allness of life. It's a thank you to that thing that sprouted you and that is you. We're in a time where there is a seeming absence of grace and a seeming absence of space. But I'd offer that that's not true. That your very physical body is made up of space, that your very atoms vibrate in that space. And as I said earlier, grace is the space that we give ourselves and by extension each other. And so I'd like you to move from your breath and the space of the room And I want you to be aware of your very beingness. And I'm going to work with this small acronym, GRACE. I want you to give full attention to yourself, and I want you to honor yourself as good. That you are good. That just as you are right where you are good. You can't help but be good. You are an expression of the all, which is good. That every tissue, every sinew of your being is good and very good. And so grace begins with that recognition of that goodness. And then the R. That right where you are, just as you are, that you have everything that you need. That you are response-able. You don't have to ask your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe. That everything in you and around you has everything it needs to respond. It is response-able. It is from a universe that is response-able, and you are responsible. A steward over what's yours. And that you're part of a universe that is all acceptance. That is all acceptance. And so I invite you to accept yourself just as you are, right where you are, in all of your awesomeness, in all of your magnificence, and in all of your messy, and the missteps and the mistakes. That right where you are, just as you are good. You're able to respond. And you're accepted. And then C. Curious. That curiosity is that childlike essence in us and around us that doesn't profess answers, but stays in the question. You are that. Have you ever given thought to just who and how and what you are? How full of mystery and majesty? And then lastly, the E. I want you to hold yourself. Hold yourself in all of the complexity that you are. I don't know your story on this call. I don't know your story. All those people listening under the sound of my voice, I don't know anything about you. I don't know what you did when you were 10, what you did this morning, but I know that you're good and that you come from good, that you have all that you need right where you are, that you accepted, that you are accepted by a universe that makes no mistakes, that you are made up of and are part of that mystery. And that it's your responsibility to stick around, to honor and to hold and to cherish. And now lastly, in that energy, I want you to imagine in your mind's eye that you're extending that out like a field from yourself. I want you to imagine as if an atom bomb of grace has left you from the center of your being and it's spread out from you in that room and out into your physical space across these airwaves. I want you to bask everywhere in your presence and out of your presence with that same energy of grace. Grace is the space that we give ourselves and by extension each other. Give that feeling, give that knowing to the man sleeping on the street corner, that refugee, to that parent that you haven't spoken to in years because of some disagreement, to that child that was lost, to that friend you don't talk to that younger you that misstepped or misstaked somewhere along the way. I want you to be able to give the gift of that which has been given to you in abundance. Take a breath. And let it out. Take another. And let it out. And another, just because you can and you're alive. Grace is the space that we give ourselves and by extension each other. Grace is the space that life gives us. And because we know that there is no spot where God is not, that all space is God. Good, organizing, delivering, generous, overflowing, deserving. You are space. And you've been gifted with grace to start again, to prepare a way, to lay a place for love, for joy, for peace. But it's all foundationed on that space of grace. We're going to take one more breath. And let it out. Good. Overflowing. Deserving. God in you, as you, and through you. Grace. When you're ready and as you're ready, just bring yourself back into the room.
Well, I think we are ready for something truly wonderful here. David, thank you. That was absolutely perfect. The idea of grace, the topic tonight is the beloved community. And we create that by being exactly what David just reminded us of, that we are, in fact, part of the all in the all, that there is no place where this divine presence doesn't exist. And so it exists as me and as you. It is everything. And so as we think about the beloved community, for me, I think about how we show up moment by moment. And when we open our hearts and accept that we've been created perfect, whole, and complete, that we are in fact unique and special, when we come from that place, we share compassion, we share love, we share peace, because we have it within us. And so thank you, David, for really preparing the space for tonight's message. And what I was thinking about talking about, the idea of how do we choose to be together. And I think sometimes we forget that life is sometimes complicated, sometimes messy, okay, often messy, and that somehow all of that is just an expression of our humanness. But when we mix in the divine, we can begin to elevate ourselves into a new understanding. So I had a quote that I liked. It was, The invitation to accept the diamond of life is not an invitation to safety and comfort. It is an invitation to live fully and completely, which is never safe and is often uncomfortable. You might think, if I am safe enough, then I can relax. But as Gangaji wrote, I am talking about recognizing that you can relax right now, even though you're not completely safe, and you never will be. Living in that place of curiosity, in that place of courageousness, in that place of showing up as who we are and being seen in the world as who and what we are, allowing ourselves to stand in a greater possibility of what life holds for us, we begin to reveal the very essence of all that we are, and we begin to shine. There's something about each one of us that is absolutely essential in the unfolding of the universe today, that it cannot be what it is meant to be without each and every one of us here and all of those around us, that there is an energy of vibration, something that we create simply by our presence, and that how we are and who we are with every mistake we've ever made, all is still well. Grace, David, I loved your expression of grace and what that was. That to me is the very essence of life. And when we come to that place of knowing that this divine allness has created us and allowed us to evolve, to be, to express whatever we've done, however we've done it, and yet somehow we are still loved, that we don't have to show up in perfection, that we are in fact perfection, that we don't have to do everything right, that we can trip and fall, but we can stand back up again. You know, there's a song that I used to hear every now and again at Verity, that a saint is just a sinner that got up. And think about that. I mean, what does sin mean? It means to miss the mark. And so if we can stand in our day-to-day experience and look upon each other with that same feeling of love and appreciation and gratitude, even though we might not know the story, even though we may not have walked the same path as somebody else, but we come to an understanding that each one of us is here. Each one of us is living this life. We're expressing God in each moment in some way, somehow. And if we will allow ourselves to be fully present, if we will allow ourselves to wake up and to be seen and to stand proud as who we are, not who we think our parents wanted us to be, or our neighbors would like us to be, or our spouse or our friend, somebody going, you know, a sibling wants us to be different, but rather to honor the life that we have been given. The life we've been given, to live that life. I think we begin to see the world in a new way and to create the beloved community. We do that through acceptance, and we do that through walking in the mud sometimes and feeling stuck, and then enjoying the freedom in the moment that we get unstuck and we stand up and we go, I'm moving easier now. And as we move into that ease and that comfort, to know that that too is temporary, that everything in this physical experience is temporary. But what isn't temporary is the divine, that essence of us, the goodness within us, the goodness that we are. That part is the constant. And it doesn't depend on behavior and status, but is rather the essence of every single life, every single person. So as I think about this journey that we're on and the things that we could do and the way that we can be, I think there's hope. There's hope for our world as we come to a place of being willing to be in a messy place, but have a conversation, that we're willing to trip and fall, but stand back up and shake it off and start again, that we have the courage to be seen and the curiosity to discover the very depths of our being, to plunge those depths and allow it out, and be willing to hear the opinion of someone else, even though we disagree. I think the beloved community is not a community of niceness. It is a community of standing in what is and navigating it with a sense of compassion and respect, a willingness to listen, to hear an opposing opinion and to allow it space, not to necessarily take it on, but to give it space to be heard. Parker Palmer wrote, if we want to create spaces that are safe for the soul, we need to understand why the soul so rarely shows up in everyday life. Safe space is something construed as being free from anything that one might find uncomfortable, or free from anything that might trigger a negative emotion or fear. But safe space in a spiritual context is very different. A safe space is a space where we go deep. It's a place where we choose to be present, regardless of the messiness. It's a place where we choose to honor each other even when we don't understand, and to allow for transformation that will give us a sense of deliverance from our own limited perspective of self, so that we can stand in who we really are and be seen and be heard and be felt and be experienced. And through all of that, to be loved. And to know that whoever has a judgment on you, well, it has nothing to do with you. That judgment comes from their perception of life and living. And so to take it on, to react to it is, well, why bother? There's no one who knows you. There's a part of you that you need to discover and to give into the world. And that's what each one of us is required to do. There's an idea of emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, and all of that comes together to create greater strength and wisdom and purpose in life as we stand in our own authenticity, our own sense of grace, our own goodness, our own curiosity, our own courageousness, all of that. And as each one of us does that, it creates something really beautiful in our world. Rabbi Heschel wrote, there is loneliness in us that hears. When the soul parts from the company of the ego and in its retinue of petty conceits, when we cease to exploit all things, but instead pray the world's cry, the world's sigh, our loneliness may hear the living grace beyond all power. It's like David talked about the space between thoughts, between words, between breaths, between heartbeats. That's the space of possibility. I invite you to look around you. Look at the people that you love and adore, the ones that challenge and ignite fire in you, to notice those that annoy and frustrate you. And imagine for a moment that they too are good and perfect and beautiful, just like you. Howard Thurman said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Begin to envision yourself as David's meditation brought you to that place, brought me to that place. Live in that sense of grace and gratitude for the ability to draw breath, to share a smile, to laugh with a baby or play with a dog. Be the light that you truly are, and share that with the world completely, openly, excitedly. And when there's conflict, sit with it, be with it, explore it, discuss it. It's merely energy in motion. And sometimes the greatest conflicts can take us into the deepest grace, the deepest joy, the deepest love. Wow, I'm having fun tonight. I love this. We're going to go into breakout rooms And we're going to have an opportunity to answer some questions with each other. And so prior to doing that, I just want to create the space for some statements of intention so that we come to this space and honor each other. I am creating a divine space of understanding, love, for each person to share their beliefs and perspectives in this experience. I am asking and acting for myself personally and not for others, and will share my truth honestly and respectfully. I'm trusting that this is a safe place to step outside of my comfort zone, or rather that familiar place that we all like so much. I'm keeping my opinions and advice to myself and will not crosstalk nor give advice or suggestions. I'm keeping confidential what is shared here. I am ensuring each person has equal time to share, and I am lightening up and I am joy. So the questions tonight: what challenges are you currently dealing with in relationship? Do you deal with people compassionately? Do you deal with issues when they arise and strive to heal your relationships quickly? And do you forgive easily or at all, and why? So you can answer any of those questions or all of those questions, whatever you feel you would like to.